Rodney Groundings. I'm your host, Deon Abrams, and with me on the program I have three eminent gentlemen. We'll be talking about some special issues away from the usual politics and here in Guyana, even though we can't run away from that. And so I have to my immediate left, Brother Robinson Samuel Robinson, and he will tell you more about his African name that he has been recently bestowed upon him. We have Champ in the center there, Chief Ambassador Samson Esudu, and one who is no stranger to you, Phillips, and he also has a special name. He has been endowed with the title of Chief. All right, and these gentlemen are going to be talking a number of things. They've just come back from a trip to South Africa, in fact in Durban, South Africa, that took place on the 1st of April to the 4th, and there are some special events that are coming up in relation to Africa and the diaspora, and we are going to be talking about those events. And so, gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the program, and it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Okay, today is Mother's Day. We can't run away from showing some appreciation to the people who have begotten us. So, showing some appreciation to the people who have our mothers begotten us. So, then we will show some appreciation to the people who have our mothers begotten us. So, then we will. Chief Eric, you want to start?
Thank you, Deon. Well, it's Mother's Day. I lost my mother 25 years ago.
Okay.
And my second mother, who was my sister, was born on the same day as my mother. I lost her 5 years ago. But they were very instrumental in my life. And mothers all over the world are critical in terms of the upbringing of their children. Philosophically, though, Africa is also the mother of mankind. So we're also honoring the cradle of civilization, which is Africa, which we were talking about today.
All right.
So happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Okay, Dr. Esudu.
Thank you very much, Brother Deon. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. This goes mostly to my mother in Uganda, that is in Africa, and my lovely wife, who is listening and watching now, Catherine Esudu. She's really, behind a successful man is a powerful woman. So she's a mother of my children, and she's very strong. As always, I love her. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
All right. On behalf of myself and my lovely wife, I would like to wish all mothers a happy Mother's Day. Like Chief Eric would have indicated, he lost his mother 25 years. I would have lost my mother 20 years now. She has been someone that I would have loved dearly. I still do. I have very good, fond memories of her. And most of my upbringing was as a result of her. So mothers play a very critical role in one's life, and today we celebrate them. So happy Mother's Day.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'm still fortunate to have my mom. All right, she's in her 70s, going on to the 80s, and I'm glad that she's alive, that I can give back to her the service that she has given me. In fact, I'm the only son that she has. We were two. My twin brother, identical twin, died at the age of 9, and so I'm the only one left. But she worked her life all for me in the absence of a father, and so mothers play a critical role in the lives of their children, and we see that still happening a lot in our society, where the mother is the sole fighter to get children to become whatever they are. And then my wife, of course, the mother of my 4 children, I want to express my appreciation for having her in my life and supporting me in all my endeavors. So happy Mother's Day to all mothers and to the 2 special women in my life. My Aunt Janet, I want to wish her also. She also played a profound role in my upbringing. So happy Mother's Day to you all. Gentlemen, the Durban conference, the Durban visit, who wants to give us an idea of what it was? Why did you 3 gentlemen decide to trek from the Caribbean to South Africa?
I can probably state why I was there, and then Chief Samson, who introduced it to CARICOM, can probably give you some details. I was invited to go to South Africa on behalf of CARICOM, in particular the CARICOM Reparations Commission, to authenticate that the kings and queens of Africa are real and are in living color. It was a cultural event, so I was there for about 3 days. It took me 36 hours to get there and about 40 to get back because of COVID and other things. But whilst there, it was an incredible event, and we invited the kings and queens to visit the Caribbean next year. But Chief Samson can tell you more about it. It was in Durban and Msinga.
Yes,
Thank you very much. I would like to appreciate the royal kings who are watching online right now from different parts of the world. More so Bayete royal chiefs. His Excellency Paul Eganda, who is the president of AIDO Network International. AIDO organization is the umbrella that unites the royal kings in Africa, bringing all of them together. So the summit that was in South Africa in Durban was one to have that collaboration, bringing all the chiefs and kings and queens closely together, working together in partnership, and they install some of the new chiefs on board, and that includes Chief Eric, myself, and Chief Robinson, who also took that privilege to be installed as chiefs. And then we have queens that come from US, so they were also installed as queens. So we were brought into royalty. So therefore, in that trip in South Africa, it was more in relation to cultural union as a vision of AIDO International, and in partnership with other organizations like DACA. DACA is Diaspora African Kingdom Association. So, and we have St. Louis Black Women, and we have AHIABGA, so African Kingdom Diaspora Association. So that is based in Africa, and the DACA is based out in US, and then St. Louis Black Women is also based in the US. So what AIDO is doing is to bring all these organizations that are more of Pan-African, to bring them together so that we work as one. Our vision should look at using culture to unite us in order to make ourselves move forward from where we are. So that was the main purpose of having the Royal Summit in Durban, in South Africa.
All right, Brother Robinson, what was your purpose of going to?
Well, I went to South Africa for a number of reasons. One of the first one was to connect with my heritage in South Africa. My father being an African man from Buxton. I also went as a CARICOM representative. The summit itself was broad-based, and my specific role there was the economic aspect of the diaspora of the Caribbean, linking the Caribbean with Africa. There's a number of initiatives that would have been generated out of the conference, and we are hoping to concretize those associations as we go forward.
All right, so Brother Eric, you went to authenticate the existence of kings and so on. What was the need for that?
In the diaspora, we forget that Africa was once a country with over 745 kingdoms.
Okay.
Colonization, enslavement, changed boundaries, destroyed tribes, destroyed their heritage. We know of the Zulus and Xhosas. Mandela was a Xhosa. And we know of Nigerian groups, whether it's Yoruba, etc. But for most people in the diaspora, it's like a fairy tale. I lived in South Africa for 7.5 years, and I've been to Durban many times, and I know they exist. But for CARICOM Reparations Commission, which is looking to build a very strong relationship with AIDO, I was there to go to this event to actually meet the kings and queens.
Okay.
So having heard about them, though, it was one thing, but having to meet them was another thing. So that was why I used the word authenticate, not for my behalf, but for others' behalf. And indeed, as I said, there are over 745 kingdoms. People forget that there are 3,000 tribes in Africa.
Okay.
People forget that there are 2,000 languages in Africa. People forget that there are 54 countries. People forget that Africa before enslavement was far more advanced than Europe. We hear about the pyramids. People don't realize that those were built by Africans. They try to say they were built by space people. And even with today's technology, the pyramids cannot be built, cannot be rebuilt. So I was there not for myself, because I'd already authenticated that, having lived in Africa and having met royalty before. So that was the purpose, to go there on behalf of CARICOM, to be there at that very critical event. It was up in the hills in Durban. And to come back and report to CARICOM that yes, we should indeed have a very strong relationship with AIDO. In our quest for reparations, we need not only the African Union, we have a relationship with them, but with the kings and queens who are really the solid ground for what Africa is, and who own most of the land in Africa.
Okay, Dr. Esudu, thanks for your, but it shows that we're still behind in terms of our knowledge, as you said, because Dr. Esudu, there is an arrangement being made for a visit to the Caribbean and to North America. And the authentication that Eric is talking about would have come from doubt in people's minds about the visit and the truth behind, the idea of kings and queens. You want to explain in some detail what that is about?
Exactly. So thank you very much, Brother Deon. So, let me bring it in this way, in the sense of a broom. A broom is not called a broom when the small sticks are not together. Those are called grass, separated grass or something. But once it is brought together, it is called a broom, and that is when it can work. So in the sense that we as Africans, we are scattered all over, but we are not together. So what can bring us together? There is one thing that can bring us together. We have tried in different ways, but it is not working. All the past decades we have been talking about, oh, we want to unite, we want to unite. But what is that binding thing that binds the broom? Is the culture. So by involving the African royalties, by having the kingdoms, the culture on board, that is the seal that can bring everybody together. So once we get streamlined along that, that is where authenticity of being an African can be seen vividly. So the trip to South Africa, remember in 2020 when you hosted me here to talk about East African history and Central Africa, that was just the beginning, and I'd already hinted about the kings and queens visiting the Caribbean. So in following that, we had to go to South Africa to meet the kings and queens and to explain about the Caribbean. So when we reached in there, we had to explain exactly how we feel. We want their presence to be felt here, so that the young generation can understand exactly how do the kings look like, African kings, because a majority of young people here, they don't understand how is the king look like, how is the queen look like, how are they supposed to be respected, how are they supposed to be, that related to, in most cases. So by royalties from Africa coming to the Caribbean, where a majority of African people were settled, it bridges the gap which has always been there for all those decades, without knowing who is the other side and who is here. So our history is based on a hearsay. What is happening the other side, we don't know. What is happening here, we don't know, until the current generation came together. And that is why when I came out from Uganda, I'm now here. So I'm now the live history of Africa. So if you asked me about Africa, I have to explain, not only YouTube, because the YouTube is somebody who posted it there, because you never know how it was created. But I am here, I have to explain myself. So now we want the kings and queens also to come down here, so that our people can feel the presence of their presence in the Caribbean, and there is that close relationship. And behind that is also an economic part of it, because when we deal with culture, we have to look at economic activities as well. So what do Africans have? What do the Caribbeans have, so that we work in collaboration in order to strengthen ourselves? So getting back to the broom ideology or the broom theory, you will find that by binding ourselves within culture as a pillar for this move, and then economic activities, we shall become a broom that can sweep all the past that has been traumatizing us.
All right, so a visit is being organized or is organized. Tell us some more about that. So the chiefs are there's a plan to bring them here, and that is you mentioned some organizations. You said CARICOM, AHIABGA. Give us a scenario of what is happening. Any you can.
Okay, so the royal pilgrimage to Americas, the kings, the representation of the kings is coming to Jamaica as planned in partnership with CARICOM, just to represent, to commemorate Marcus de Gavi's birthday, our legend. So the trip for this year is heading, around 50 kings are heading to Missouri, that is in St. Louis. So CARICOM is part of the whole process, and that is why Chief Eric is working closely with us, so that to see that AIDO and CARICOM are collaborating in this organization. So next year we have the trips in Kenya, that is in Nairobi, where Caribbean people are expected to go to Nairobi, including CARICOM. And then at the same time, at the end of the year, we expect the delegation, a big delegation from royal kings and queens from Africa, and the business community plus some government representatives to come to the Caribbean, which will be organized by the CARICOM team. So for next year.
Yeah, the St. Louis trip is from August 24th to 29th.
Okay.
And as Chief Samson indicated, there will probably be 50 kings and queens, and they're
gathered in one place.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a beautiful hotel. Most of the activities are owned by a black St. Louisan. Of course, they are kings and queens or their representatives in the States, and they're hosting that through the Black Women of St. Louis. In CARICOM, we're hoping that next year to have a delegation that will visit at least 4 countries at the same time. We're hoping it's around emancipation, because everybody's mobilized for that. And so we have a year to plan, but CARICOM intends to send a delegation to St. Louis to participate in this trip, so that we could, apart from me going to Durban, other members of CARICOM can meet and build relationships with the folks who are going to St. Louis.
My brother Robinson, you said you went there to reconnect. What was the experience like for you personally?
Well, first of all, I need to say very clearly to our viewers that the Africa that we see on TV is not the Africa that when you go and visit. So the first thing you have to do is to scrub your brain. Most of the things that they tell you about Africa is so untrue. South Africa in particular, and the continent of Africa is really majestic. I really believe that the continent of Africa is probably bigger than what we were told. What is interesting, however, though, is that we have to fly from the Caribbean here all the way up to Europe to get to Africa, when you can actually fly from the Caribbean to Africa, which is probably like quarter the amount of time, because we would have spent at least about 3 days traveling from Guyana here to reach South Africa. And as this Chief Eric would have said, it took about 40 hours coming back. That timing can cut down just about 6 hours. You can probably reach Africa about 6 hours from here. From an economic standpoint, that's something that we really need to work on. And if we can get that, I'm sure that more persons can connect from the Caribbean or this part of the diaspora with Africa. In terms of my experience exploring Africa, I really believe that people should, or people of African descent or Africans that are here, should put it on their, maybe their bucket list, at least once in their lifetime, to visit the motherland. It changes you, and it changes you in ways that will transform your life to understand where you come from. If you don't know where you came from, it's difficult to understand and appreciate as to where you are and where you ought to be. And it's important that you reconnect with that source of all creation, which is Africa. So it was quite an humbling experience for me. I plan to take my family next year. I'll let them experience what it is to really connect with their homeland.
I'd like to add to that, because Chief Robinson is so correct. I was managing director for Africa and the Middle East for AT&T, so I was fortunate to go to Africa and visit 40 African countries, and lived in South Africa for 7.5 years. And it totally transformed you, because you see people like you all around you in power, doing great things economically. We see such cultural diversity, and you come to peace with yourself. And all the pictures you see on TV, you're able to wipe them off. Indeed, there are huts in Africa, but the hut we saw was a resort where they had about 60 huts, and you had a hut for yourself. But it was a room built like a hut that had air conditioning and internet and TV and all of that. So the Tarzan and those people don't exist. Africa is majestic. It's the second largest continent in the world. It has the most resources in the world. As I said, we have 3,000 tribes. If you go to Ghana, you see yourself, Brother Deon. We came from West Africa. If you go to South Africa, you see yourself. The faces walking in front of you. And the culture is so incredible. All the music, the creativity, the ability to do great things is in our DNA. But there's a lot of misinformation. And as Brother Robinson said, we should be able to get to Africa from Guyana in 5 to 6 hours. Instead, because of colonization, we have to go up to Europe or go up to America. I went from here to Barbados, Barbados to Miami, Miami to Atlanta, Atlanta to Joburg, Joburg to Durban. That's crazy. Could have taken 5 hours instead of 36. But it shows how the global economic architecture is against us, and we need to rectify that. And that's part of why Chief Samson was there, as well as Chief Robinson, to see how we could bridge things together. And I want to reinforce what Chief Samson said. Culture is not just about music and dance and clothing and food. It's about philosophy, African philosophy of community. It's about economics, your economic philosophy. China is strong because China's economic philosophy is about community. And that's what they do. They take care of each other. And that's an African philosophy too.
All right, let me give you sorry for calling you brother and so on. I have 3 chiefs before So tell us about this coronation that you went through as emissaries from the
Chief Samson, it's in your blood. Brother Chief Robinson,
so you have names, and tell us about the names and the
So I would like to say, in the coronation there are stages that you have to go through.
Okay.
So, and of which they went through the same stages. Of course, belief and trust is what builds the whole background. But as they were given names,
Siposo Zulu.
Siposo Zulu.
That's my African name.
The overseer.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the gift from above.
Bekinzalo.
Okay.
Becky for short.
Okay.
The gift from above.
Yeah.
So
it's actually a Zulu name. clicking sound.
Okay.
So
But it comes from the spiritual realm.
Yes, it does.
yeah, so in culture, naming is also something that is meaningful when it comes to name someone. So that's why he was given the name overseer, which means he's overseeing,
Things, affairs of CARICOM and so on.
exactly. And then for him, a gift from above. It's something that is meaningful. So it reflects your gift as well, spiritually. So that is how the culture we have to embrace, right?
So these symbols, what are
right.
these symbolic of? I see each of you carrying a little, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to be wrong.
Okay, so these are chieftaincy powers.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah, we were part of a broader coronation of queens.
Yeah.
We had our Grand Queen, Queen Mzikali III, Bayete Mother Queen.
Yes. By
We had
What's by it?
King. Bayete is a way of greeting.
Okay.
Respect to
Respect.
royal.
Yeah, we had kings there. We had Princess Shepi, and it was held at an incredible place owned by Lady Empho, a businesswoman of incredible talents. She has a manor, and so we were there almost like we were in incredible space. And there's a process, and the queens are guided. There are protocols on how to behave and how not to behave, how to dress, how not to dress, how to address elders. So it's a process.
So each of you went through that process, and so you were given the new names and designations. I want to recognize you for whom you are. Three kings before me, and I hope that the problem with us as a people is that as we were sitting here talking about your coronation and all of that, there may be a lot of skepticism, and people may look upon it in ways that are not even condescending, but but it talks about our lack of understanding of ourselves. And like Samson did say, we have a lot to learn, and so this
And unlearn.
and unlearn. this proposed visit, how meaningful will it be in changing the outlook of people in the diaspora? We talk about Pan-Africanism, Nkrumah and all of these people. How impactful do you think this will be in bringing about some of these changes that we talk about?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to bring it in the way that if you have cultivated the farm and you delayed to weed, definitely the plants will shrink, right?
Okay.
So you have to do something so that the plants can get back to original shape. Therefore, getting into, we know different cultures have infiltrated our people, and they have completely believed in different cultures than whom they are. So by getting them back, it is not a one-day event which can change everybody. So you'll find that it will take some time, which from this initiative of having the kings and queens come down, they can feel it. They can feel their presence. And then for them to go to Africa, the gradual process of change comes in. More so when we start involving the young generation, especially the children. When we start involving the children, that will be a great achievement that we will have already made, if children are targeted to be agents of change, because by the time they grow up, they will have grown up in that environment of knowing whom they are, and they will definitely push away whom they are not. And that's why in my thought of the broom, once we come together, this broom will definitely sweep whatever was put there, and it will clean the house.
Brother Deon, it's what Chief Samson says is indeed true, but it's a process. In Guyana, people wear kente cloth, they wear African hairstyles, they do all sorts of things African, but it's from memory. I think when the kings and queens come, and these are very educated people with multiple degrees and all sorts of talents, the way they carry themselves, the way they dress, their history, their knowledge, all of that will be shared. And I think that will facilitate or catalyze our people wanting to do their ancestry. And once that process starts, and there are all sorts of tools to do that, they'll know where it really came from, and hopefully that will help them to go and dig into, if your ancestry is from South Africa or Cameroon or Nigeria or Ghana, it will give you an impetus to go and seek more information. And through that process, you'll start to realize who you are and where you come from. Last Sunday, the Guyana Reparations program, TV program, showed Ghana like you've never seen it before. Ghana has massive infrastructure projects that you wouldn't believe. When you visit South Africa, it's as modern as any part of the United States or the UK. So we read about these things, and our young people read about it, and they are miseducated because of who writes it. And hopefully with the kings and queens, they'll get grounded, and they'll realize that, yeah, there's Queen Elizabeth and all those folks, but we have our own kings and queens, and we have 745 plus kingdoms, and we have living kings and queens and princes and princesses and royalty. And I hope that process will help to heal, because some of us hate ourselves, hate being African, because they don't know the beauty of Africa. They've never been there. And Africa is indeed marvelous and beautiful, and they'll absorb that, whether by osmosis or any other means, and start to feel more proud. The pride they have is I won't say artificial. It's there because it's in your DNA. You can't run from yourself. But I think that connection with the kings and queens will solidify that inner feeling in your soul that you're African.
Yeah, but the fact is, Africa is driving so many things culturally across the world.
Yeah.
I was traveling in a bus one day with a young lady of another ethnicity, and the driver was playing a song. She said, "Why don't take off the thing and carry it on?" I said, "Look at your music that you think belongs to you right now.
Came from us."
Do you see people doing the kind of dances or playing the kind of instrument that your great-grandparents might have been listening to and playing? All the dances on your screens and so on, where do you think they're coming from? So you're telling us about our music, and the music is right in your face.
Yeah.
But they don't give us that recognition. They use everything that we have, and then they make it seem as though it's theirs. All right. So we are across the world. All right.
Brother John, these folks don't realize that Africa is the cradle of humanity, that they're part African, because the first people on earth were African, and they migrated to different parts of the world. The first Chinese were black. The first Indians were black. The way people became white is as Africans migrated from hot weather and moved to cold, your pigmentation changed, your eye color changed. They're African. They're running from themselves.
Yeah.
But the rhythm is in them, so don't worry.
And they're getting it back. There was a time when you used to laugh when the beat hit them and they're out of tune and so on, but everybody is in tune right now.
And then you hear things about you're from Timbuktu without them realizing Timbuktu has 700,000 manuscripts with every possible subject.
Yeah, that is the neck of learning.
But just to add to I think one of the things that really stands out with me on my visit to South Africa was the emphasis placed on family.
Okay.
I would have had an opportunity of dining about a couple of places, and families really come together and really celebrate the family unit, especially through food.
Okay.
While culture brings families together, food also does. And what was interesting for me is that there's this one restaurant we went into, and there were some Ugandans there and some South Africans, and we actually ate out of the same bowl.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, Ubuntu. And the thing is that what the guys were saying to me is that the culture is of such a nature is that they eat from one plate and they share that among each other, and they will not take another plate until that one is finished. Now, it just goes to show that the emphasis on family is so important that that is an understatement here in this part of the diaspora that we don't put much emphasis on. Now, to really build a community and to build a people, I think our ancestors earlier, in the earlier years of formation, of when they came here, is that they had that togetherness, and I think that's one of the reasons it would have led to the buying of some of these villages that are still existing today. I think in some regards we have lost that tradition of that family unit, and it's something that we really need to work on very strongly, and to get back our families together. You know, to raise a child takes a village, and so too any person that grows up in a community, probably in the early 80s and 70s, would have had that kind of community spirit.
If you lived in the country.
If you lived in the country. In some instances and in some places it still exists, but we have moved away, and it's something that we need to get back to. I think that's some of the reasons why we have so many social issues, predominantly in our own community. So if you can get back that community spirit, that village kind of life, it would really add value to our society and kind of like ease some of the social issues that we have. So the emphasis here has to be on families, and it's something that we have to start at the basic level and to really move it forward. I was most impressed as to the family, the emphasis placed on the family unit in South Africa.
And a kingdom is about a large family.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
You know, Deon, they bastardize our culture. Eating with fingers out of the same bowl is what my chief was speaking about. So they call it now KFC was it finger
licking good? Yeah.
They've stolen our basic principles and bastardized it.
Yeah. So getting back to culture, you know, culture stands because the family stands. So once the family is distorted, culture is also distorted. So that's why you'll find in Africa, the family is a priority, is number one. So in culture, when we talk about the family, and that's why you see AIDO. AIDO previously was an abbreviation. Ateker. Ateker is a word, is not a tribe, but is a term that means a family. You know, when you talk about the family, everybody gathers together and we eat together. We share everything together. Without you, I cannot eat. So when I grew up, you'll find that when you go home from school before others, you will not eat. So meaning it was something that was making you wait for others to come in so that all of you come together as one. So the family is one thing that culture finds its powers, right? So once we have kings and queens come down, you will find that they will be emphasizing more on having the family structural system, where you will have the chief in charge, specific kind of people, specific group of people, whereby you'll find there's a queen who is responsible for women affairs. You know, in our history, what we are told is that the African tradition was abusive to women. It wasn't. the queen, that was the role of the queen, to be in charge.
Matriarchal society.
Yes. So to be in charge women affairs. Any issues about women, they take it to the queen. So the queen handles it at that level. Meanwhile, the king is in charge of everything. So basically, the main thing is that we lost our culture, which is scattered us everywhere. And now the majority of our generations have grown up in that kind of bisected environment, where you believe on what you are told, but what you are not sticked to that. You are not leaning on that. So therefore, this reunion where AIDO and other agencies is calling upon all the Pan-African groups across the globe to come together in order to build that strength, to tie up this broom so that we can sweep away all what was put in us to make us so divided.
As Chief Samson was saying, it's about family, and it translates through your culture into your economic philosophy of community. The West is about individualism, is about greed, who gets richest. Whereas in Africa, it's about sharing, it's taking care of the family, making sure that everybody's welfare is taken care of. The Chinese do the same thing, it's about community. And we've been trapped by this Western philosophy of capitalism, of greed, of looking for individualism, and it's not the African way. We see it here in Guyana.
Well, I was just about to ask, and you're touching now on it, because a lot of focus has been placed on economics and the economic relations between Africa and the Caribbean and the diaspora. What does Africa, because people seem to believe that Africa has nothing to offer. Once you're talking economics, you got to go to Japan, you got to go to the United States.
But Deon, why is every country now running to Africa? The Berlin Conference of 1884, they split Africa among 23 countries. The race for Africa. There's a new race for Africa. The Chinese are there, the Indians are there, Americans are there, the British are there. Everybody is there because Africa still has the most resources in the world. Whether it's rare earths for your computers and artificial intelligence, whether it's every mineral, whether it's food, whether it's culture, Africa is still the source of mankind. And so we, coming back to what Chief Samson said, we don't have the economic linkages. We have to ship to America or Europe to get to Africa. We should have direct connections and direct trade. And that's going to happen, and that's part of the reason why Chief Samson was there, to start that connection. The largest free trade area in the zone was just formed in Africa. If you look at why Gaddafi was killed, he was trying to bring together a unified Africa with a common currency that would facilitate things. We don't need to get 54 visas to go to Africa. You know, the European Union has, once you get into a European country, you can go to 27 others. Those are the types of things we have to do to increase trade with Africa.
But about 2 years ago, there was a conference at the conference center where there was a visit from representatives of Africa exploring the possibility of air links directly from the Caribbean.
Yeah, one was signed between Guyana and Ghana.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, you're right, at the conference center.
Right. So
that has to be materialized, but the open air agreement was signed. And indeed, there was a Ghanaian lady, Fatu, who was trying to get a trip between Guyana and Ghana during the period of the return to Ghana, that year of return. But that didn't happen, but we're hoping, as Chief Samson says, that more people start to yearn to go to Africa. Africa has been marketed as an evil place, as a dark continent. And we're the only ones who bought into it because we don't go whilst everybody else is going.
So, Chief Beckinsale, I understood that your role, apart from the culture and so on, was you went there in line of business, what have you been able to achieve as an agent for business prospects here in the Caribbean?
All right, so the first thing is the arts and culture needs to be interchanged between this part of the diaspora, the Caribbean and Africa. As of now, there are a number of things that is happening in terms of the exchange of materials, garment. Even this that I'm wearing here is from Africa itself. What Chief Samson is wearing is from Africa.
Yes.
These fabrics here themselves, you will not find them in any part of the world, save and except in Africa. So these are the first things we want to start doing in terms of trading. So we want to do it in such a way that our people can be exposed to the type of material and quality of material. The Chinese have attempted to make these materials.
Well, that was just about it, because I went into a Chinese store and you look at the material and it looks African, but when you go close, it has dragons in it.
so these are authentic.
This is Arab Street,
right? So these are authentic materials, and the Chinese will never get it because this is the original. And these are some of the things we want to expose our people to. You know, there are a lot of chains and a lot of beads and a lot of quality work.
This is bead. This is bead work.
These are all beads. Okay. Yeah, they're all handcrafted. And what we need to do basically is to start interchanging our skill set between our people in Africa and our people here. Now, there are persons who are willing and able to come to this part of the world to teach our people about their trade and their culture. And this is something that we're really working towards. We're actually in the initial stages as of now. There are going to be soon some memorandum of understanding that will be signed. A big area too is the mineral that Chief Eric spoke about. Africa is so rich in minerals. And that is something that we're actually, matter of fact, just before I came onto the program here, there were some discussions on how we can actually engage in some mineral mining in Africa. You know, the best quality of diamonds are actually found in Africa. The best quality gold is found in Africa. And these are some of the areas that we're exploring. Some of the best technologies are also found in Africa in terms of the information technology area and so on. So there is a whole list of economic activities that will be explored. And as Chief Eric would have pointed out, our people are highly intelligent people. And that intelligence will now be extended in terms of the diaspora, so we can really explore the opportunity of economic trade. Now, to really move our people forward, we need to enhance their economics. And you know, when we go back to our foreparents right here in Guyana, we used to do a lot of farming. A matter of fact, we had a lot of markets, or village markets. A matter of fact, recently I saw in Moko they were trying to revive it. It's disappointing to see that we were trying to revive something that was existing, really. And the reason being is that we should have been able to be in a position where we can able to be pushing those things forward and supporting our own products and our own communities, and try to get the riches within our community and to kind of enhance it and move it forward. We're too much of getting our dollars out into other areas of operation, and we should really get it within our own community and develop ourselves and support each other so that we can drive this whole community spirit back once again. It's something that we need to get back to basics. I really believe that we should get back to basics. And once we get back to basics, I think that's a good place to start. But the mere linking of the African continent and the kings and queens of Africa to the Caribbean, I think is going to really ignite that spirit of Ubuntu, of togetherness, and it's something that's going to really work to the distinct advantage of our people.
So how I mean, you're talking about linking people to our kings, our queens, and so on. How accessible will the royalty be to the ordinary citizen within the communities that they're going to be connecting?
They're not like Queen Elizabeth where you're riding a horse
Okay.
and a chariot.
Very
These are
ordinary
people
people.
in the community.
Yeah, they are.
We walked among kings and queens and princes and princesses and ordinary people all in the same hall, but they're protocols.
Yes.
And we're community people, you know, we don't need guards and sirens and all of that.
Okay.
You know, we visited the Blood River, which is a museum way up in the hills that tells us about Zulu history. They're accessible, they're friendly, they don't bite, they're full of wisdom, they're full of history, and their DNA is in our DNA, so we're the same. It's just that we've been separated by language, religion, and geography.
Okay, that puts my mind.
You don't have to make an appointment and go through Parliament and all of that.
Right.
You know, it's
And
a
then
protocol. The elders, they're elders, and the Queen has her own sphere of activity and sphere of influence, and we just have to relearn what we've lost.
Okay, but for the conference, the United States, the Caribbean, if you want to, from Guyana to get, because they are not visiting all of the countries, how can you make the connection?
Guyana will be visited. If they ever come here, Guyana will be a must.
Okay.
Yeah, Jamaica, Antigua, countries are vying to have them come there. So we have to work that out within CARICOM. But we would like to tie up everything with a huge economic conference. Because our countries are small. We have 14 million people in the Caribbean. That's, I mean, a small, most countries in Africa are larger than that. And so, yeah, we will use the logistics to make sure that as many people see them as possible. And we're hoping to tie everything up together with an economic conference. Because without economics, you can't, I mean, economic power is political power. People think that political power is economic power. In many cases it is, but if you don't have an economic power base, you can't survive, and that's what's happening in Guyana. We don't have an economic power base, and that's why African Guyanese are struggling. And economics 101 is that you have to take care of family and community and trade among yourselves and love each other.
Yeah, so, and then besides that, during that visit, there are protocols that will be followed on a different days.
Yeah.
Because on a one day is allocated for cultural activities to interact with the community.
Yeah.
And then other day is allocated for business community. Then other day is allocated for other activities.
Young people,
so
women,
young people, and so on. So
naming exercises, we may rename some things.
Yeah, so that is how it is. But going forward, because this is just the beginning, so going forward, as we continue having close visits and so on, you will find that we shall have opportunities whereby maybe some young people from the Caribbean will take initiative to visit Africa, and they will visit the palaces, and they will visit and have that one-on-one interaction with the royals in Africa.
Yeah, spend a week in a village and learn village life as it used to be.
Yes, so that they can have that that full understanding of whom they are, because that is what we lack.
Many of the foods in Africa we eat here.
Yes.
All right, well, gentlemen, I've just been signaled that our 1 hour is up. I mean, the discussion is pretty interesting. Of course, as things progress, you will be invited to come and give updates. But it's been a pleasure having you three kings here with me.
Chiefs.
With me this evening, and to the kings and queens who are watching the live stream, I want to recognize.
Say Bayete to them.
Okay, Bayete. Right. Okay, so that's what we've lost. So we're regaining some of our culture. In closing, any brief remarks each of you would like to make?
Okay, so let me go. I will want to close by saying that Africa is really and indeed a sacred place in addition to being majestic. It's quite disheartening and discomforting to see the kind of information that would have been disseminated over the years to our people in this part of the world. But be that as it may, I really believe this is the time now, especially with the sort of technology that's available, to re-educate ourselves on our source of our existence. A people that doesn't know their culture and doesn't know their root is a lost nation, is a lost people. And the mere fact that we three would have been able to have an opportunity of reconnecting to the source and to have an opportunity of interacting with the kings and queens of Africa, it's a good start, and it's a start that will augur very well for the future. And I wish my young brothers and sisters out there can really be inspired by our visit to Africa to reconnect. I know Dr. Samson is from Uganda, and Eric would have had extensive exposure to Africa. But for me, being a newcomer and a visitor to Africa, it is something that will change you and will bring you back to your very existence and to know who you are. Once you know who you are, then you can always move forward in life. And I think sometimes when you're really lost, it's difficult to find our way. I think I have found my way.
Chief Samson?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to assure the viewers that this initiative from AIDO CARICOM perspective plus other organizations, so all the Pan-African organizations, wherever you are, let's come together to join hands so that we form this broom that is called Africa. So the new Africa that we would form will all clean up whatever was done on us. So thank you very much, and I wish you to enjoy Mother's Day celebrations. And once again, happy Mother's Day to everyone. Thanks.
Chief Eric?
Yeah, Africa is a spirit, it's a soul, it's body, it's mind, and we are disconnected in many of those ways. I think the visit of the kings and queens and the collaboration of the diaspora with Africa will help to heal us. And we all must remember that this is Mother's Day and Africa is the mother of humanity.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. To the people out there, it's been a pleasure being with you, and you can always link with me to make contact with any of the three chiefs here to learn more about the proposed trip of our kings and queens. Do have a blessed night. Happy Mother's Night to all the ladies.
August 24th through the 28th. The African Kings and Queens are coming to you for business, networking, and sharing of Pan-African ideals. The venue will be the illustrious En Garde Arts Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. All right.